Good morning, Hope Point Church. I suppose you're all having a sleep in today and just relaxing at home. It's a great time for us to be praying for our nation and been praying for what's happening. It's really the people that lead our country need real wisdom, and we just need to keep praying into this and being constructive as Christians and being those that can be a help in these times. And it's a great time for us to stir our hearts. We might be at home, but this is a time where we're not going to run off to the TV sets and just binge out and fall asleep, but we're going to stir our hearts and we're going to get closer to the Lord and just looking to Him. I just want to share some thoughts I had just over the last week. I've been meditating on a small passage in Isaiah, which you'll all know well. It came to me during a prayer meeting a couple of weeks ago. We had a great time of prayer here at the church one Wednesday night. We felt it'd be great to sing that song, We Need a Move, or This is a Move. I'm not sure how the words go. But it's all about God is still a God who acts in our lives and in the events of history, and He's a God who's always doing things, and just encouraging song. And we sang that. We also sang that song, Lord, I Need You. And couldn't help but this passage come to my mind from Isaiah. I guess why it was stirring my heart was I'd been thinking about how God can change our lives. I thought about how many times when we first come to faith, when we get born again, when Jesus comes into our life, He delivers us from sin, He sets us free, how that encounter with Him can just transform so many parts of our lives just instantly. It's like an encounter with God, and we can see such great change. And we have those experiences with the Lord from time to time. We're just calling on Him, we're just looking to Him, and He just visits us, and something breaks, and there's really change. And there's many times just in life, our growth in God and our going on with Him change can also many times just be that daily conviction of sin, our repentance, wanting to line our lives up with Him, wanting to please Him more, obedience to His word, and just putting into process that putting off the old life and putting on the new, just walking our faith out, and gradually we are transformed and changed. We start putting our old life behind us and we're walking in the new. But I was just aware how for many there can be such great need in people's lives today that we need real power from God. We really need the encounter. And this verse dropped into my heart when we were praying that night. Just read it to you from Isaiah 64, if you want to read there as well, verses 1 to 4. It says, Oh, that you would rend the heavens and come down, that the mountains might quake at your presence, as when fire kindles brushwood and the fire causes water to boil, to make your name known to your adversaries, and that the nations might tremble at your presence. When you did awesome things that we did not look for, you came down, the mountains quaked at your presence. From of old, no one has heard or perceived by the ear. No eye has seen a God besides you, who acts for those who wait for Him. I just so encouraged just reading that verses during the last few weeks. I've read them over and over and over again, and the rest of the chapter. It's so full of such encouragement. Here we have this picture where God rends the heavens, that distance between us and Him, that barrier that we can't see. The things that are unseen are actually more real than the things that are seen. But there's times when God rends that veil and He comes down and He personally intervenes in our lives in such a supernatural way. This is the God we know. Talks so many times in this little passage. 3 times it has your presence. And to me, it's just a picture of the Spirit of God, how he is the source of our lives being transformed. He's that transforming power that as the heavens are rendered and the Spirit of God comes down into our lives, we're changed. It talks about mountains quaking. When God appears, even nature has to bend to him. It talks about fire that kindles, water boils. Stuff happens when God comes down into our lives. There's real effect, there's real shift, there's real change, and it's lasting change. It talks about you did awesome things that we did not look for. There's the sense of, when God's on the move, it's unexpected, it's the suddenlies, it's those powerful things where, we just stand in awe of what God is doing. And it has these lovely words. It says, a God who is, no eye has seen a God like you. God, our God is so unique. There is no God like him. There's no other God that comes down. All the other gods of the world are gods that we have to work at getting close to. We have to work to please. But we have a God that rendered the heavens and came down and visited us and changed our lives. And the key to all of this experience, to all of this that really would be the longing of our hearts and our desire to see more of this supernatural power of God. It says the key to this, it says that this is a God who acts for those who wait for him. I don't know about you, I certainly longing for God to act, to come down, to visit us. And it's encouraging to see that the key here is to wait for him. But what does it mean to wait for him? And am I doing this? This week I went to see the specialist. About 10 or so years ago, I was diagnosed with lymphoma and had to have chemo for a period of 6 months and treatment. And by God's grace, and it was a lot of prayer as well. I know the first thing I did was to ask for prayer, and I was looking to God to be healed. And I know made use of all the things that God would provide as well. And I was healed. But I'm required to go back to the specialist every six months. And I've been going there the last 10 years, and many times I'm sitting in his waiting room, and I'm waiting for a good hour. And this week I was there again, and I have to say I'm not a good waiter. And I was waiting for an hour, and I was watching people around. They were waiting for nearly 2 hours, and they were complaining and perhaps getting ready to leave, and different things were being said. So I'm sure we've all experienced times where we've had to wait, and there's been a delay, and someone's just kept us waiting. But what is it meaning here? What is Isaiah saying when he says for us to wait for him? I started to look into this a bit more. I thought about the Hebrew words. What is the word here? Because Hebrew is really God's heart language. And many times I was reading through a book this week as well, that its language has 10% of the words or less that we have in our language. So many times its words, it'll have a word and it'll have a much more broader meaning than what we would have. And many times we can have one word that can be translated in many different ways, and it just depends on the context. It's interesting that the Hebrew word for work and worship is actually the same word. It's also the same word for listen and obey. It's just an amazing language. We like to think in concepts. I know I do. I like to sort of have logical thoughts and explain things and like it to be clear. But God seems to communicate so many times in pictures and parables, stories, and concrete metaphors and things that just create this deeper, richer way that we can reflect on truth. That's what Jesus did. God seems to paint with bold colours and very broad strokes. So I wonder what your picture is when you see that little phrase, wait for him. Do you picture yourself sitting in a chair, just reading a book or just being quiet? Is it just being at rest and we leave it all to God and he'll just act in his own time? He'll just decide when's a good time to visit and to turn up for us. And we're just there like in the doctor's specialist room, just waiting for his time when he's ready for us. You know, is it just about us taking it quiet? Taking it quiet till he comes. Here's a little thought. Many Hebrew words and concepts, they focus on action more than just this mental thought. I guess the key of what I'm trying to say in that is that to wait is more active than it is passive. My guess is that when we're asked to wait for him, it's not a passive wait, it's an active wait. It's actually, the word means to long for him, to tarry for him. It's a bit like Simeon in the book of Luke, where Luke records he was waiting for the consolation of Israel. He was waiting for the Messiah to come. He was active with this. He was in the temple. He was about it. He was always ready and poised for what God was going to do. It's like in Psalms, the same word is used where it reads, but they soon forgot his works. They did not wait for his counsel. You know, we can rush off and do things, we can act, we can do stuff, and we've not even spent time to ask God, what do you think about this decision that I'm about to make? We don't take our counsel from God. We don't wait for him. Talks about Habakkuk, where it says about the vision, it awaits its appointed time. It hastens to the end. It will not lie. If it seems slow, wait for it. It will surely come. It will not delay. You know, whatever God has promised, whatever God has said, we can wait for it. It's an active, expectant attitude of faith, this waiting for God. It's similar in the New Testament. We don't see that phrase, wait for the Lord, but the whole sense of the return of the Lord that we read about through the whole of the New Testament and the church in its early days, they had an active longing and a looking for the return of the Lord. I think of Matthew's parables, where he says, he's got all these ones, this whole group in Matthew 25 and through there, 25, I think, they're all in there. There's about 5. And they're all about the delay of the Messiah and the delay of his return, the delay of the bridegroom, and parables about being active and being ready and being prepared. There are stewards that were asked to put their talents to work during the delay. There was stewards that had to look after their household. There was those that were going about life looking after and wanting to care for the least of these. My sense of what this wait for the Lord is it's active, it's expectant, regardless of any delay, and it's faithful despite the delay. The question for me as I thought on this is, am I waiting? Am I expectant? And am I actively waiting for the Lord? You know, if we've got this expectancy, this faith in our heart, this longing for him, if we're expectant, we'll out be sowing seed like we've shared in the last few weeks about sharing our faith. If we believe God's at work, if we believe God is the God that's going to rend the heavens and come down, if we believe he's a God who acts in the world today, then we will sow seed. If we expect God to move, if we believe in a God that there's no God like him, there's no God like our God, then we'll be praying. We'll be people of prayer. I'm so challenged about this for myself. How much am I praying? How much am I calling upon God in these times. Let's not let this lockdown put us to sleep. Let it stir our hearts to pray and to be people that believe we have a God who rends the heavens and comes down for those who wait for him, for those that wait for him with expectant hearts and pray. If we're expectant, we'll keep going. We won't give up. We will just keep pursuing him. We'll keep going for it. We'll keep sowing, praying, just doing the work of the Lord. And if we're expectant, we'll step out in faith. So waiting for the Lord is expecting him to act. Is there an expectancy in your heart today that we might be in our own homes feeling like we're locked down, but have you got an expectancy in your heart that God is about to act? Because God is drawn to that. God is drawn to your expectancy and to your faith. Isaiah tells us God acts for those who expect him to act. And boy, do we need God today. If there was ever a day that we needed God to act, it's today. We need his presence. We need him to tear the heavens and come down for us. Passive waiting just doesn't cut it. Sitting in a waiting room, just being asleep and at rest, waiting for God to move, I just don't see it. What I see here is active waiting, expecting, waiting for God. It sees the hand of God. We will pray, we will fast, we will step out. Those who wait for him, they believe prayer makes a difference. They believe they can make a difference. Just a few people gathering in a room or gathering at home, you can make a difference no matter how long this lockdown goes for. You can make a difference at home just by 1, 2, 3 gathering to pray. It actually goes on in verse 7. There's actually a rebuke here. This is the verse that began to speak to me as well. It says, Isaiah says, there is none who calls upon your name, who rouses himself to take hold of you. These people, the people of God, had drifted away. They were in most difficult times. Isaiah knew the pain that they were in, but they'd stopped calling on God in prayer. They no longer expected him to intervene on their behalf. People who wait on God, they stir themselves up to take hold of him. Let's stir ourselves. I'm stirring myself, and I encourage you during this time when you're quiet at home, don't go to sleep. Stir your heart and stir your heart for him. The other part of this passage that I meditated on is the very first word. It's a word of intercession. It's this word, oh. Do you catch it? Do you feel Isaiah's heart when he says, oh? It's a real cry. It's a prophetic cry. Isaiah was in difficult times. There was armies that had gathered against Israel. They were in captivity. The north had been taken away. The south was about to be taken or had been to Babylon. This was their lot at the time. They were really in a difficult place. And Isaiah is an interceder. He's interceding for the people of God, and he's praying, oh, that you would rend the heavens and that you would come down. That in this most difficult time, this most impossible time, God, you would come down. We can say it's just a prayer, but it's more than a prayer. The intensity of it is like it's dialed up to about 10. It's like if you've got a child. Think about your most difficult times in life. I think back when I've had a real oh. I think back if you've got a child that needs a miracle. You've got a cry in your heart where the intensity, that dial has gone up to about 10. You think about if your marriage is at risk and about to break and your life is just in crisis. you've got an O in your heart. The cranking up of your prayer, the dial is going up. Think of a national crisis. People that have faced civil wars or famine, or for us, even on a mild scale, this pandemic. There needs to be a cry in our hearts, oh, God, move in these times. In the times of our impossibles, God can do the impossible, and it needs to be a cry in our heart of an O. So my encouragement today is, let's not let this lockdown put us to sleep. Let's be people that wait on the Lord. We have no other God except him. We have a God who's like no other, who says, I just love that part of the verse that says, from of old, no one has heard or perceived by the ear, nor eye has seen a God besides you. It's almost like God saying, you ain't seen nothing yet. It's just such a passionate passage. We have a God who does the unpredictable. We have a God who does the suddenlies. We have a God who does things out of the box. But he does it for those who are longing for him, who are waiting for him, who are expectant for him, and expressing it through active prayer and desire and passion. Let's stir our hearts. Let's be those that want to lay hold of him because he will work for us. Our one answer for a change in our impossibles is God. Are we longing for him? Are we expecting? Are we waiting for him to rend the heavens and come down? We don't just need it for ourselves. We need it for our nation. We need it for our own town. We need it for the ice addict. We need it for those that are addicted to porn. We need it for those that are addicted to alcohol. We need the power of God. We need to see him rend the heavens and come down. And we need to expect and know that this is the God that we serve. This is what we need to do more and more. Stir our hearts, arouse ourselves, wake ourselves off. I get this picture of just shaking off the dust, shaking off the sleep, getting yourself up, getting awake to God, and being people that will pray. We'll pray because we know he will answer. He said to us, call unto me and I will answer and do mighty things. This is our God. We will sow because we know there's rain coming. We're expectant. We're not thinking that it's just going to go downhill from here. We are going forward because we expect him. We know that if we repent of things, God will act. He will be a God that will save us and deliver us. We know if we step out in faith, God will step in power. This is the reality. God acts for those who wait for him. And this is the invitation we have from God. He says, call unto me and I will answer. He says, expect great things from me, do great things for me. Let's be those who wait on God, and let's dial up the O in our hearts and have hearts that intercede and that really call on God for more and to see him rend the heavens. Hearts that intercede and that really call on God for more and to see him rend the heavens and come down. God bless you all, and I trust that you will be in good health, and I trust that our church will be blessed during this time. We might be locked up in our homes, but we're not locked up by any enemy. We're not restricted from prayer and from passionately calling upon God. God bless you today, and may you be encouraged.